Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Duce Raymond Podcast. Today, we have a super special guest, Mr. Steven Raichlen. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Steven Raichlen has long been drawn to the flame and excitement of live fire cooking.
Live fire cooking is in our DNA. About 1.8 million years ago, a distant human ancestor discovered that you could cook meat with fire. We gathered together around the fire to cook, so communal cooking is a very human activity.
Oh, man, thank you so much for taking the time. It's truly an honor to meet you. I've been listening and learning and reading all of your stuff for years now.
Yeah, it's I've been at this a long time.
So I read online, you published 30 books. Is that correct?
It's actually number 33 came out this spring. It's called Project Griddle.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
I'm working on numbers 34 and number 35 right now.
Absolutely amazing. Oh, that is just a true testament to how much information you have and how much you're willing to help other people. And I really appreciate about it. That's a lot of the things I think about as the content that we put out is educational and how to help, people in their backyard kind of do things the right way and not make all the mistakes that I've made.
Well, we all learn by mistakes, don't we?
Yeah, that is true. So what got you started in the barbecue world? When was that? And kind of what was the spark to get you into barbecue?
Well, I have a degree in French literature, which is an odd background for barbecue, but in a funny way it makes sense.
A self-proclaimed frustrated academic, his scholarly approach to grilling started when he was pursuing a degree in, of all things, French literature.
While I was doing my research, I came across a medieval cookbook called The Form of Curry. It blew my mind. 700 years ago, people were writing cookbooks, and this idea just came to me. Grilling's the world's oldest and most universal cooking method, but everywhere it's done differently. Wouldn't it be cool to travel around the world and document how people grill in different cultures and countries? The year was 1994, the place, my front porch in Miami. I remember what I was wearing, what the weather was like, time sort of slowed down. And I heard this voice, and it said, "Follow the fire." The idea was that I was to travel around the world writing about how people grill in different countries and cultures. That book became the Barbecue Bible, and that's how I got into barbecue.
Wow.
I do not come from a long distinguished background of pitmasters. In fact, when I was growing up, I didn't even know what real barbecue was, but I wrote the Barbecue Bible. Spent 4 years traveling around the world's barbecue trail, and I was hooked.
76 countries, over 30 books,
Come stai? Bene.
and TV appearances in multiple languages later.
Alors, je m'appelle Steven Raichlen, je viens des États-Unis.
Raichlen has immersed himself in open fire's countless possibilities, gathered from around the world.
When you were traveling around, what is one thing that really stands out to you even today? Like what one technique or one cuisine or culture?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. I'm actually working on a memoir, and I was just writing about that this morning. But one experience, and it was one of 1,000 experiences. I was in Bali, Indonesia, and local specialty there is something called Babi Guling. It's Guling. It's a roast pork.
Okay.
And I met with a pitmaster. He picked me up at 4:30 in the morning. We went to a farm. We picked out the pig. And then he kind of laid his hands on the pig, and the pig just calmed down, quieted down, and almost like in a Zen state. And then he gave me the knife, and he said, "Put it in right here." And I put it in right there, and I killed the pig.
Wow.
And then we collected the blood and put it in a bowl, and he mixed some freshly shredded coconut with it. And he said, "Okay, eat this. This is pig's blood coconut soup." So that was my breakfast that morning. And then we went to the market to buy some spices I knew and some spices I had never seen. He made the roast pig. It was totally amazing. And, was just, it was 4 years of experiences like that.
Wow. That is so cool. That is so cool. I grew up in the barbecue world a little bit because my dad was the chef that created Sweet Baby Ray's, and then my uncle ran the business. So there was always barbecue in the background. And
Sure.
whenever we had like 4th of July or, someone's birthday or something, my dad would make ribs on the Weber grill and, charcoal on each side, rib rack standing up in the middle. And that smell of the charcoal and that pork is something I think about to this day when I make ribs in that method. And it's something so special to me to be able to teach people that. But then also, based on my culinary background, I went to Kendall College for 4 years and then started to incorporate some international flavor profiles in some traditional barbecue techniques. And that's something that you talk a lot about, is different cultures and different techniques.
Why the pivot to griddling? Is the guy who wrote Barbecue Bible now turning his back on barbecuing?
No, it's funny. It happened in a very natural, organic way. If you try and grill an A5 Wagyu steak over conventional grill, the fat's going to melt and your grill's going to set on fire. So what the Japanese do is they cook it on what's called a teppan, which is a griddle. Now, I had a portable griddle. I put it on my charcoal grill, and then I cooked the Wagyu steak that way. And it was like a light bulb went off, and I thought, well, you know what, this griddling, there's a way to marry griddling and barbecue. And the more I got into it, the more I liked it.
What's something else from a different culture or technique that you've learned that you like to incorporate it into your backyard?
Well, gosh, there's so many. I have been to 75 countries on 6 continents in the process of researching my books. But I think, probably the layering of flavor, which we do in American barbecue, which they do in Indonesian barbecue, which they do in Japanese barbecue. One really cool technique, we all know chicken teriyaki, right? Japanese barbecue of my land of birth. I was born in Japan.
Wow.
And they make a teriyaki sauce, and they have a 2-step process. So they sort of grill the chicken skewer, it's chicken kebab. They grill it plain halfway through, and when it's thoroughly heated on the side, they plunge it into the sauce, then continue grilling it until the sauce sears into the meat. Well, that sauce is good after a day, great after a month, amazing after a year. And they have some of these sauces that are 10 years old, that constant dipping adds more and more flavor. So, that's something you'd apply as long as you remember to really heat the meat super hot before it goes in, and boil the sauce every once in a while to sterilize it.
Interesting. Yeah, there was a restaurant I worked at in Park City, Utah. And I worked out there during the 2002 Winter Olympics. It was an amazing experience. But I worked the grill station, and they had a balsamic pork chop. And it was like the same kind of line of thought, that every time you cook the pork chop, till it was like 3/4 of the way done, and then you started dipping, and then put it on dip it in the vinegar, put it on the grill, dip it in the vinegar. But you're right, now that I think about it, as that vinegar we used it for a few days, like reduced in concentrated flavors, and then would get even better.
You want to eat that the 3rd day, that's for sure. Yeah.
Interesting.
His new book, Project Griddle, The Versatile Art of Grilling on a Flat Top, showcases both recipes and techniques for the method many associate with just breakfast.
Talk about Project Griddle. So, Blackstones and Weber and everybody's got their griddle now.
Yep.
This is something that's in our culture. Did that inspire you to make the book, to just see the uprise of everybody using griddles, and you wanted to help educate on what's good, what's bad about it, and how to use them? Is that what inspired you?
The funny thing is, Project Griddle originated with one of those super expensive, ultra well marbled A5 Japanese A5 Wagyu steaks. The steaks that cost $100 a piece for a piece of meat that's about that big.
Yep.
And someone gave me one as a present, and I thought about it. And if I cook this on a grill, right, it's at least 50% fat, it's just going to catch fire. It's going to turn my grill into a flaming mess. So I did as grill masters do in Japan, and I cooked it on a griddle. And I took a portable griddle and I put it on my Weber kettle grill, and I put some wood chunks on the coals, to generate wood smoke. And the steak came out perfect, and I didn't lose any of that luscious fat, and it didn't have a fire or a flare up. So armed with that, I thought, maybe there's some other things I can do on the griddle. And one of them is, I like shrimp, but grilling shrimp is a pain, right? Because 20 shrimps, it's a lot of shrimp to turn. Sure, you can make a kebab. But anyway, With that, again, I did that smoke griddling technique. And then I was able to pour brandy on the shrimp while it was on the griddle. So it burst into flames, it flambéed, it gave me an incredible flavor. Then I thought, yeah, there is something to this griddle. So I've been griddling even before Weber came out with their griddle, Traeger came out with their griddle. But when those two companies, two of the biggest grill companies in the world, came out with griddles, that was my light bulb moment. I said, wait, there's something
to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, took the idea to my publisher. They loved it. And, 2 years later, Project Griddle is, it's out, it's available at bookstores, on Amazon, my website, bbqbible.com. So, I hope people try it. We did a lot of stuff that, you say griddle, and most people think pancakes, right? And there is a breakfast chapter. But I did so many cool things. One thing I did is I apprenticed at Benihana for a day. So I
awesome.
actually learned how to make a flaming onion, which I have in the book. And at Benihana, they don't let you eat the volcano onion at Benihana. But my volcano onion is designed not only to delight and amaze, but to be eaten.
Awesome.
I have some amazing dessert, peppered pineapple in Project Griddle. So it's really, 24/7 breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, everything from appetizers, main courses, vegetables, desserts, side dishes.
Awesome.
I also came up with a couple really cool techniques. And one is smoking on a griddle. Like if you have a Blackstone or a Traeger griddle, and I can't actually disclose that because I want people to buy the book, but it does involve pellets or wood chips, and you can actually smoke on a griddle. I use it to make the barbecue chicken with Alabama white sauce.
Yeah.
That's the recipe in the book, and that's very appropriate because this year is the 100th anniversary of Big Bob Gibson's in Decatur, Alabama.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
We make a version of Alabama white chicken here, and always give props to Big Bob Gibson. So they were the starters or creators.
You bet.
It's a delicious thing, and a lot of people still do not know about it or haven't had it. And I try to get people to try it as much as I can because it's so different from traditional red, sweet, tomato-based sauce. Just the vinegariness, it's beautiful. It pairs so good on the chicken.
Well, I'll share with you the little Raichlen twist on that, and that is I put horseradish in it, grated horseradish. So that kicks up the heat a little bit.
Nice.
How many grills do you have here?
I think we have about 12 grills here. Each one has a special purpose. I've got the griddle for griddling. I've got the wood burner that's right in back of us. I've got a gas grill because even Steven Raichlen, on a busy weeknight wants to use a gas grill.
But 12 grills, does one need 12 grills?
Well, how many shoes do you have in your closet?
So I was thinking about all the different smokers and grills and pieces of equipment you've used over the years. Is there a favorite, or do you think a favorite for a certain meat? Like if you're thinking steaks, you think Weber kettle, or brisket, you think of offset smoker. Is there anything that you've used over the years that is like really your go-to for a certain kind of meat?
Well, I try to remain ecumenical, and you hit the nail on the head. With every grill, kind of has its own function.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm cooking a brisket, I either use a water smoker or an offset barrel smoker. When I'm grilling meat, I like to use a wood burner. But if I were to only have one grill that I could take to a deserted island, it would be a Weber kettle grill. I think that's the most versatile. You do all 5 methods of live fire cooking on it. There's no electronics to break down or anything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The new Weber searwood pellet smoker is very, very good. I have one in my backyard, and as far as pellet smokers go, I mean, you're always going to lack a little bit of flavor, but efficiency and cooking low and slow and cooking hot, it does a good job for sure. But I would agree with you. If I had to take one thing on a deserted island, it'd probably be a Weber kettle too.
Weber kettle grill, yeah, absolutely. So, I run a school called Barbecue University out at the Alisal Ranch in Solvang,
I
California.
was going to ask if you still do that.
Yeah. Next session is coming up the 2nd to the 5th of September, right after Labor Day.
Awesome.
And I think at our last count, we had 35 different grills and smokers there, and one of my goals for our students is to be able to try all these different models and, find your favorite, or at least I should say favorites, because these days I think any serious griller has 2 or 3 grills, smokers at home. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the one that I don't have at home is a traditional offset. And I feel like if you're talking about, Texas style barbecue, there's something about the way the meat comes off of a traditional offset when the smoke is just right and it's not too heavy, but it's definitely the most time consuming piece of equipment. You have to be ready to settle in and go for a long ride if you're going to cook on an offset.
Yeah, you do. Well, I know one of the sort of supposed advances in the field of barbecue is being able to control the whole shebang from your phone, or your Apple Watch. I'm not I don't do that. I kind of like to touch and feel and smell and get smoky and sweaty during a cook. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Is there any advances that or changes that you've seen that you are embracing or discouraging in the world of barbecue?
Well, I try not to discourage. I think that anything that gets people outside grilling is a plus in my book.
That's good.
And the pellet grills, they've really taken a lot of the guesswork out. Do they produce quite the amazing smoke flavor that an offset would? Nah. But do they produce a reasonable smoke flavor? Yeah. And is there a way you can enhance that smoke flavor? Sure. Take a pie pan full of lit charcoal, put some wood chips in, put that in the smoke chamber, and you'll double or triple the smoke flavor, and it'll be a much more kind of true barbecue flavor.
That's a good tip.
Other advances, there's some really cool portable grills now. I mean, I like the Nomad. Derek Wolf from Over the Fire Cooking has come out with this new grill called the Fire, which is a portable and very well-designed charcoal grill. So I like that. Kudu, the Kudu is a wood burner that you can be in for a great wood burner for under $350. So that's pretty fantastic.
Awesome.
I'm Steven Raichlen. Join me for a live fire extravaganza in my all-new series, Planet Barbecue, with sizzling new flavors and dishes from around the world, from Peruvian anticuchos to Thai curry barbecued chicken. This is fabulous, with guest grill masters and hunger-inducing field trips. Planet Barbecue, global grilling at its best.
So much has changed since you started with how people digest content, everything with the internet. So you started way before social media, and now
I started way before. I started before the internet. I think about it. There was no Google for me to do my research, and no email for me to email experts in foreign countries. It was all done with faxes and phone calls.
That's so crazy to think
world
about.
That people can't even imagine.
No. I can't. And I think about that with my family's business is how, my uncle got started with Sweet Baby Ray's. There was no internet for him to research on how to do it and how to reach out to people and how to market. And he just did it all bootstrapping and knocking on doors. And it's just a totally different world now. So my question was going to be, so do you see all the new content, all the reels and TikTok, and people use those platforms for educational or barbecue influencing, if you will. Do you see that as a positive, a negative? Is it, it's so much different than the way you started, and now you've seen it kind of evolve over the last, 10 years or so. So what do you think about how content online has changed barbecue?
I think it's super. I think it's fantastic. It has brought world barbecue, world cuisine, and the whole world to your phone or laptop. You don't need, when I make made my TV shows, we had a crew of 18 people. Now one guy with an iPhone and a guy with an iPhone and a tripod can make a TV show that's every bit as convincing. Sadly, I think one sad thing is that our attention spans have shrunk. And books like the BBQ Bible, 540 pages, that's a lot of content. And I think, today people want to absorb content in 20 or 30-second bits. But you can get a lot of information across. We're very active on my Instagram and Facebook channels. I mean, we post every day.
That's awesome.
Nothing but good to say about it.
That's
By the
awesome.
way, this is speaking of platforms. So a couple of years ago during COVID, I got an email from this couple in Spain, and as their COVID project, they cooked every recipe in the BBQ Bible, and they have started up a Facebook page called the BBQ Bible 500 page.
Wow.
And we're just about to hit 1,000 members, people from all over the world who are cooking their way through BBQ Bibles. So
That's
that's
so
pretty cool. And that's an example of how sort of an old school media like a book has become, a very new school phenomenon with social media platform.
That's such a cool story. I love that. I'll have to go check out that page.
You should,
I have
absolutely.
a copy of the BBQ Bible here somewhere for sure.
Cool.
We have
Yeah.
over like 250 barbecue books. So
bet.
it's like kind of fun to collect it and see them. And that's something people tell me is like, I eventually want to make do my own barbecue book, and I have so many different recipes and stories to tell and things like that. And some people say, well, nobody needs a book. They could just see it online. But I think there's something special, specifically about cookbooks. What do you say to someone say like cookbooks are dead? What do you say to that?
I say cookbooks are alive and well, thank God. Knock on wood. My new book is, Project Griddle, and that just went back to press like 3 weeks after coming out. So people are definitely still buying cookbooks. There's something about holding a cookbook, thumbing through a cookbook. The other thing is, when you search a recipe on the internet, you don't know who wrote it, if they tested it, and very often they don't test it. I mean, the process of like myself and people of my cookbook authors of my generation is a very rigorous process. Before a recipe appears in one of my books, it's been tested 3 or 4 times by me, my other people. So it's reliable. My younger members of my family, will pull recipes off the internet and they'll kind of be surprised and hurt when they don't work. Well, who wrote it?
Yeah.
How do you know there's any credibility? So
That's a good point.
But books, there was a big scare when the Kindles came out that the book was going to disappear. I have a Kindle, I use it for research sometimes, but just the pleasure of holding a book. You can't beat the pleasure of holding a book.
You go into Barnes & Noble and look at the cookbook section, it's just huge. And I love the visuals too. I'm a very visual person. I love flipping through it and seeing the pictures, and it's so inspiring too. Even if you didn't make that recipe, it's like could inspire you to think about how to present something else or something else you've seen.
Memorial Day weekend often means the kickoff to summer, including grilling season. Well, this morning on The Dish, we meet the guy who wrote the Bible on it, literally. After publishing his international bestseller, The BBQ Bible, Steven Raichlen has gone on to write more than 30 cookbooks, picking up 5 James Beard Awards along the way. Now Reichlen's exploring a different method in his new project, Griddle, the versatile art of grilling on a flat top.
Now, if you were talking to someone that's thinking about getting into like writing a cookbook or something like that for the first time, what kind of tips would you give them? And then how long is that process kind of start to finish? Does it take, you had mentioned 2 years for Project Fire. Is that because you're an expert, or is that about how long it takes to do a book?
Well, actually, my big books like BBQ Bible and BBQ USA and Planet Barbecue all took 4 years each to write. It's not all I was doing during those 4 years. I was also making TV and, doing book, but it's, it's a process. I will give you the advice that Julia Child gave me. That really proved to be perfect, which is take a subject of broad interest, but then take an approach that you and only you can do. Well, for me, and I'd written probably 8 or 9 cookbooks before I came to barbecue. But for me, the broad subject was barbecuing and grilling, live fire cooking, because everybody loves that, not just in the U.S., but all over the world.
Yeah.
But the approach that I took was twofold. One, this global grilling. I made the world my barbecue beat. And, anytime I write a book, I pack a suitcase. That's the first thing I do, traveling. So there are people that make better briskets than me. There are people that do better ribs than me. But I venture to say that nobody in the field has been to 75 countries to research barbecue and grilling. One sec.
Yep, you got it.
Well, sorry about that. I hope you have the ability to edit.
I was going to say, usually we get into that in the pre-intro. Okay. Everything can be edited and we post-produce for sure.
Yeah, I'm just getting over a cold, so
I am too.
So, but at any rate, so that was very good advice, and I think it worked very well for me. The other kind of aspect, I'm a frustrated academic, and so I try and take an intellectual approach. A very analytical approach. When I came to barbecue before BBQ Bible, it was really a field with a lot of superstition. My daddy did it this way. In Kansas City, they do it that way.
Yeah.
I tried to find, what are the common elements? What are the underlying principles behind what's going on? And that came through that was kind of the goal of my book, How to Grill. But in terms of writing a book, say now, so I wrote, what my publisher like to call category killers, books 400, 500, 600 recipes. And I think that's kind of out of vogue now.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you can write a book with 75 to 100 really good recipes, that's about where the world is right now. And you ought to be able to do that in a year.
Mm-hmm.
If you are trying to find a publisher, probably the first thing the publisher is going to ask you is, who are you? What's your social media platform? If you've got a big social media platform, that is a big help. I mean, obviously, if you're famous, you're the chef of a famous restaurant, that's a big help if you've been on Top Chef and won. I mean, in other words, when I started, kind of a good idea was enough to sell a book. But today, you really need to bring a platform to the publisher before the publisher will take the book.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's not just what the book is and the quality of the content, it's who you are and what makes you stand out as well.
And that's a big change.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily a bad change, but it's just different.
Right. Well, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, people have been telling my dad and uncle to write a cookbook, or cause they have such an interesting background, and then people have talked to me about it because of everything that I do online. But right now we run a catering business. We actually with 2 brands, a Sweet Baby Ray's Catering, a True Cuisine, which is more high end kind of traditional food for weddings, and then we have a Sweet Baby Ray's restaurant. And now I'm in the process of selling my own sauces and rubs under the brand Duce's Wild. So I have just a couple things going on that I haven't gotten around to the cookbook yet, but it's still
we all do.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, so Sweet Baby Ray's, that's a perfect example. I mean, if they were to do a cookbook, a publisher would snap it up because it's such a popular and recognizable brand.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to talk to Uncle Dave about that.
The other thing that's interesting and sort of has been hard for me to come to grips with is that most books are ephemeral objects. And I've been very lucky in that BBQ Bible has been in print and selling for 27 years now.
Wow.
How to Grill is still in print. Many of my books are still in print, but that is not the case for most books. Most books come out. I wrote a novel 10 years ago, which had nothing to do with barbecue, but was an immensely gratifying experience. And, it did well. It went from hardcover to paperback. It was translated into French. But like all books, eventually the sales dwindle and the book goes out of print.
Yeah.
However, it is available on Amazon. And, so Amazon, that's another great thing that's happened. Amazon and print on demand has, given life to so many books that in past years would have just gone into oblivion.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like there's, everything can come and go, like trends come and go, and just because people have written a book on Texas barbecue doesn't mean you can't write your version of that book. And
yes, absolutely. And every new generation, reinterprets the same things. It's like I'm in a reading group with my college alumni, and we're reading all the Greek classics, the Iliad, the Odyssey.
Oh my gosh.
Socrates, and we're talking about looking at the Iliad, and we realized that most of us, there have been 5 major translations of the Iliad since we came out, and each one speaks to a different generation. The one we read in college was very poetic. The latest edition was, almost like done in the style of rap, and that's okay because today's generation wants things in sound bites and wants text to maybe be a little tougher, a little more musical. And that's the same with barbecue. I guarantee you 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people will be writing about Texas barbecue and they'll find something new to say about it. Maybe it's fusion barbecue. It's the way that how Mexican and cuisine and Texas barbecue are coming together. In Kansas City, there's a Thai Kansas City barbecue place called Buck Tui.
You really? That sounds awesome.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah. It's interesting how the whole, in the last, so when we opened our restaurant, it was 2005. Before that, we traveled around. We went to the Carolinas. We went to Texas, to Memphis. And so when that's 20 years ago, maybe it was like 21 or 22 years ago when we went to Texas, none of these new places were open yet. No, there was no Aaron Franklin's. There was no La Barbecue. There was no, what's the one that just won the top 50, the Burnt Bean Company. None of those were open. And that's like a whole new genre where it's like traditional Central Texas style barbecue, but they're putting, their own spin on it, whether it's a little bit of a Mexican flair or, it's just super traditional, but it's small scale. These restaurants aren't made to be scaled into huge operations. There's a couple pitmasters, there's a couple people working the register. Everything's really high quality, but it's just, and it's different than Louis Mueller's and, Taylor Cafe and all those super old school places. It's got its own vibe to it,
And you know what? And one day those places will be old school. And there'll be something that replaces that. And one day people say to Aaron Franklin, I remember when my grandkid, when my grandparents used to go to your restaurant. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's it. That's how life moves.
For sure. Well, what other projects? So one thing I'm very impressed by is how generous you are with your time. And a story that comes to mind is when I was talking to my friend Greg Rempe from the Barbecue Central show, when he was first getting started, he was talking about starting his show kind of like in the era of how it is now. And he said you were his very first guest. So without having any presence or understanding of what he was doing or anything, you agreed to go on his show. And I think that just speaks so highly of you and how much you love the barbecue community and how much you try to do to support it. So I wanted to acknowledge you for that. So that's so awesome. And without really knowing me or what we're doing or having a big presence in the podcast circuit anyways, you agreed to do our show. So I think that is awesome. And I wanted to say thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Sure. Look, I have the greatest job on the planet, and it's because of my fans, my readers, and people like you. And, we all started. So I remember when I started and I pounded the pavement trying to sell my first article or my first book.
Yeah.
So, you got to give back. Anyway, you asked about new projects. So I've got a couple. First of all, the next big thing coming up for me is Barbecue University, like I mentioned, at the Alisal Ranch. 25th anniversary this year of Barbecue University, which is pretty exciting.
Wow.
We've been to 4 locations. This is by far the prettiest. It's a 10,000 acre ranch in the Santa Ynez Valley in California. 3 days of just smoke, fire, great cooking, great wines. It's summer camp for people who like to grill. That's how we describe it. The other thing I'm working on that's kind of fun is I'm working on a history of barbecue documentary.
Oh,
and
wow.
I've teamed up with an Oscar-nominated producer and multiple Emmy winning production company. So, that's still in process. We're still developing the idea, but it's a project I've been working on for a long time, and it combines kind of my academic interest and my barbecue interest.
That's absolutely amazing. I'm super interested in that. And if you need any information on Sweet Baby Ray's, I can help you with that. If that makes the book or the movie, that would be amazing. The documentary game is so cool now with Netflix and everything. I love watching their documentaries on anything from sports to Bitcoin. It's like there's so much information out there now. It's interesting.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
Good.
cool.
Whether it's in his backyard or through his books, Steven Raichlen never gets tired of preaching the gospel of grilling.
What does it mean to be able to share all of this with people?
I think you've just hit on the piece of my job that I love the best, because obviously I love the research, I love the travel, but this is all about sharing, and that's what makes us human.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for taking the time, and
Absolutely.
I hope our paths cross again. And
Me
this
too.
has been an amazing conversation, and I'm definitely going to keep you in the loop. And as things go for this podcast, hopefully I can have you on for round 2.
I would like that. Thanks a lot. Grill on.
All right, thank
Bye-bye.
you.